Yes, I love my morning routine. And when I said I'm doing awesome, it's because I have a foundational morning routine that I do every single morning whenever I can. Like I don't beat myself up about it if I don't do it, but it just provides me the grounding and the centering to set up for the rest of my day.
Welcome to the Optimum Human Podcast, the show that interviews the world's top experts in fitness, nutrition, mindset, and beyond. Let's get into the show.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Optimum Human Podcast. My name is Brian McKay, he's Claude Petroulis, and we host the Optimum Human Podcast. We normally say we are the Optimum Human, but
we're everything.
Some people say not so much, but anyways, today we've got another awesome guest, Nora Wendel. How the hell are you today?
Oh, absolutely awesome, like I am every day.
That's great.
Beautiful. Honestly, I'm just so taken aback by your enthusiasm. Generally, we start with who are you and what do you do? I want to know what do you do to stay so happy? Let's jump right into that.
Because it's all about mindset. It's how you think about yourself and your surroundings, right? So I make the decision to feel awesome and surround myself with things that make me feel awesome so that I can feel awesome all the time. Sounds simple, right?
Very. So what is your definition of awesome? I mean,
Continue.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so what makes me feel awesome? Well, things that, light me up, that fire me up, things that, I'm not only talking about good things, because I just have to tell you a little bit of a story. So I've just recently come back from Bali. I've been spending 6 months in Bali, and I'm now back in Cape Town in South Africa.
That sounds pretty awesome.
That sounds pretty awesome already, right? However, the first time people say, oh, South Africa, isn't it dangerous there, right? Aren't you afraid there? Don't you have this fear? And I was just talking yesterday to someone about this, and I said, you know what? I actually love my fears because they show me my true values and what's important to me. And I realize that feeling safe and feeling in a community is really important to me. And so coming back to South Africa, where I have this fear about walking alone in places, and I do have to be careful because there is crime here. Okay, let's be honest about it. But you just have to be aware of it. I realized that, hey, Bali was actually the kind of place that I really want to be. So I faced my fears, and I basically allowed myself to be okay, this is actually not what I want. So I go around telling people now, what are your fears? Cool. Okay, well, what does that tell you? So that leads back to how I create my life and how I decide on how I want to create my life so that I can feel awesome every day. And whether it is being in a place that I maybe wouldn't feel fear, but I don't know if you get what I'm saying. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, just kind of appreciating your surroundings. I mean, if I'm understanding it correctly.
Yeah, that
Totally.
if something doesn't work, switch it up. I think it's pretty simple, really. Although we as humans, I think, tend to complicate things.
We like to make things kind of tough, yeah.
Totally. And I'll give you another nice little story. So I just moved from one of the nicest neighborhoods in Cape Town to one that's not as nice. So it's not, I used to live on the beachfront, and I'm now living in the suburbs area. And I was totally freaking out that this change was I'm downgrading my life, and actually oh my God, how can I leave the seaside? And I'm sitting here and I'm actually you know what? It really isn't that bad. I'm actually loving it.
Perfect.
So change isn't that bad. What I like to say is we always fear change, and we create these stories in our minds that, oh my God, it's not going to be that good. But when you're actually, how bad can it actually get? When you're actually in the situation, then it's not actually that bad. It's our minds are such wild creatures of themselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Stoic philosophers. What they used to do is they thought about the worst situation they could actually be in, and they put themselves in that situation, and then they realized, hey, this isn't that bad.
Oh yeah, totally.
So
totally.
People get freaked out a lot of the time about nothing, really.
Yeah, it's all made up stories in our head.
Oh,
Yep,
100%,
pretty much.
100%.
Absolutely. So awesome. Now that we know what is awesome, Nora, what is it exactly that you do, and how did you kind of get to where you are today? If you can give us a little rundown of that.
Sure. So I always start by saying that I am multi-passionate, because when people ask me what I do, sometimes I choose to say just one thing, but other times, I choose to be another thing. So recently I started to say I'm multi-passionate, which means I love doing many things and I don't let that get me down. Because many people think, oh, I can only do one thing. Hell no, I love doing so many things. So let me give you a little spiel of like what I actually do. So I'm a graphic designer. So that's how I've spent my last 5 years in the online world. So designing brands and websites for female entrepreneurs around the world. I'm also a photographer. I'm a business profile, a portrait photographer. I'm starting a stock photography membership site called The Photo Forest as well. So that's another thing that I do. And now I'm getting into lifestyle mentoring for female entrepreneurs who feel like they struggle with finding work and life integration. There we go.
That is multifaceted.
Absolutely.
How do you handle doing all of that?
Well, you know what? The key is all of that is me. I'm not separating out and I'm not trying to be someone else. I am Nora, and that's why I say I'm multi-passionate. I have passions in all these areas, so I just manage to bring them all together. They're all tied into me. I don't know if you understand that, but it's like everyone's like, oh my God, you must be totally frazzled because you got all these different things going on. Actually, I do have many things going on, but because I can manage to, how do I phrase this? Basically, I'm just going to say it's me. I'm not frazzled because all the things that I do is me.
Well, some people might get that, but for me, I don't quite understand. Like for me, I'm very like structured. I like to have a schedule, and I'm doing this then, doing that then. So how do you keep track of it all?
Okay, so one of my tricks is I actually have different days of the weeks for different business for a different business. So on Monday, I'll work on only my Nora Wendel design stuff and with my clients. Every Wednesday will only be the stock photography membership site, and every Friday will be content creating, and half the day split for the different businesses. So I've actually divided my weekdays up.
Okay.
All right. That's a smart approach. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it works. It works.
Yeah. I might start using that myself. I like that.
Yeah, that's stolen, but yeah.
So Brian, I know you had some questions about the upbringing.
Yeah,
so I'm kind of fascinated myself.
Absolutely. I know you've already said that you're living in South Africa, and we're just in Bali for 6 months, and I understand that you were kind of raised in Asia. Is that all over Asia?
Yeah, so I've had a very global gypsy upbringing. I was born in Thailand, and then my parents were living in Nepal, in Kathmandu, the capital city of Nepal. So I grew up in Nepal, actually, for the first 10 years of my life. And then in between Bangkok, Nepal, and Hong Kong, before I went to boarding school in India at the age of about 16 till 18. And then I went for university in England, in Australia, and since then I've just always been about a year, 2 years, every 2 years I kind of move. So I've lived in Brazil, I've lived in Australia, I've lived in India again, and now the last 2.5 years I've been in South Africa.
Wow.
That's a lot of bouncing around.
It is. And so what comes to my mind is just like, we were talking about it earlier, just like the fears of the unknown and obviously safety being one of your highest values. How do you kind of balance that with checking out all these other places that you've never been before?
Well, so do you mean if you're going to be traveling, or do you want to if you want to move somewhere? In what aspect?
Either or.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think if you want to move somewhere, first of all, I just tell you to go for it because you never know what can happen, right? And I love adventure. So I think that's just the way I was brought up, right? Being raised in these kind of Southeast Asian countries, I love myself a good adventure. So even though what I often do is I write when I have a decision to make, and even if I need to move to a new country or perhaps I want to go explore somewhere new on vacation, I generally tend to write lists. I'm a very list person. So I write the good and the bad. So it's like all the negative and all the positive. And when you kind of put them all down onto paper, you can then kind of see which is the side that you tend to have more on. Is it more positive or more negative? And that's how I tend to make my decisions after writing down on lists. And then there's the other part of me that just like, well, what do you want in your life? What is your value, Nora? And you can ask yourself that. Well, if safety is one of my values, but adventure is also one of my values. So then I tend to go for it. I'm just like, all right, I think because I've grown up traveling as a young child already, it's a part of my nature. So if you've always lived in the same place, it can be the barrier to start traveling is much greater because there's many more fears you might be facing since you haven't had the experience, right? So all I can tell you then is just to start, even if it's just like go just to your neighboring city or maybe just fly a short 1 hour flight away, just to start exploring and see how it makes you feel and see, is adventure or exploration or finding new things or finding out about new cultures, is that one of your values in your life that you want to try and dig a little bit deeper into?
Well, it makes a lot of sense. I just think about my daughter and how, if she's in one place for too long, she gets bored and starts getting into trouble because she's not able to explore more. So definitely being able to continue to get out and expand our horizons and our own little worlds, if you will.
Totally. And I have many friends who always are like because I travel so much, I have many friends who don't travel also, and I just meet them in the cities they are in or in the towns they're in. And then I always challenge them because we're such creatures of routine. So then I'm just like, okay, so instead of just sticking to your everyday wake up, go to the same thing, I then challenge them to go to something and try something new, and that already will like expand your horizon. So let's say I'll do just pull out an example. It's like, okay, let's just go to a karate class this week instead of my usual yoga class and see what that's like and meet some new people. And that's a whole world in itself, right? That you've probably never been to or explored before.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes a lot of sense.
So it's just putting yourself out there, yeah.
Yeah, I love doing that.
Perfect. So I know I've done a little bit of research and you got a morning routine. Speaking of creatures of habit, what does your morning routine look like?
Yes, I love my morning routine. And when I said I'm doing awesome, it's because I have a foundational morning routine that I do every single morning whenever I can. Like I don't beat myself up about it if I don't do it, but it just provides me the grounding and the centering to set up for the rest of my day. And so I highly recommend having some sort of beautiful morning routine. So my personal morning routine is when I first wake up, whether it's with my alarm clock or just naturally, I always pick my word for the day. I set my intention. So, I can spend a moment thinking, okay, what am I doing today? Cool. All right. So I got to be productive today. I got to do lots of content. So my word for today is productivity. Or if it's a Saturday and I know it's like kind of holiday, I'm not going to work today, then I'm like, okay, well, today I want some peace or rest. So that's one thing I do every single morning when I first wake up is I pick my word for the day, and I love it. It excites me.
That's awesome. It totally reminds me of Sesame Street, to be honest with you. I mean, all this stuff we're taught as children, and we forget it because life, kind of oftentimes tends to beat us down. But I think the key to life is going back and watching kids shows and learning those again.
Totally. I'd totally be up for rewatching my Sesame Street years. So yeah, pick a word so go on, Brian. What's your word for today?
God, so like the first thing that came to mind was just awesomeness.
There you
Awesomeness.
go.
And
Awesomeness.
I think maybe I stole that from you, but I'm okay with that. I don't know if you are or not, but I'm okay with that.
As long as you're okay with it, Brian.
And what about you, Claude? What's your word for today?
For me, mine's energy. I just feel like we've all got pretty good energy right now, and I feel like, just got to keep that going throughout the day.
Great. You see, it's already like kind of sets you up for the day. You're like, cool, my word's energy. So what can I do in my day that's going to support my word, right, of the
Yep.
day and make me feel energetic or make me feel awesome? So you're already setting up the routine of your day by picking a word in the morning. I love it.
Yeah, that's worth the price of admission for our listeners. Which
Yeah. Yeah, so you guys listening, get your word of the day.
Get your word of the day. So that's what I do when I first wake up. Then I drink a cup of warm lemon water
Daniels.
or
Oh.
Jack Daniels. or apple cider vinegar and water. So then I set my digestion up for the day. So it's the benefits of doing lemon water or apple cider vinegar are so many. Just cleanses your whole system, your digestion. It gets the juices and the enzymes ready to start digesting your food. So that's the second thing that I do. So I get up, set my word, go wander into the kitchen, boil some water, and then make myself apple cider vinegar in water or just squeeze a lemon into water. And then I sit down and I do my journaling. Or I would do a guided meditation, and I use an app which is free. It's called Insight Timer, and it's got hundreds and thousands of free meditations on there. And if I have a word for the day, I might search that in the app. So it might be productivity, or it might be manifestation, and then I pick a guided meditation, and I do that usually around 10 to 15 minutes, and then I sit and journal. I have a very strong reaction when people say meditate, because people then think meditation is sitting, almost in a straitjacket, very uncomfortable on the floor, and suffering. And that's not meditation, right? So I prefer just to say...
it can be, but...
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be.
It can be. It can be. So I prefer just to say I'm sitting, and I'm sitting with myself. That's what I do in the morning. I sit, and whether I choose to do a guided visualization, or I sit just with my eyes closed, or then I choose to sit and journal, and I call that my sitting practice. And that's just me being with myself. I find it very beneficial because it just allows me to check in with how am I actually feeling. What's going on internally with me today? Am I feeling frustrated? Why is that? And sometimes I write a big to-do list to get everything out of my mind. Or like I said, I'll listen to a guided meditation. And some of these meditations just make me feel like I'm shining from the inside out, which I love that feeling. And it's a beautiful practice. And I try and do it every single day. The key thing is, if I don't do it, I don't feel guilty about not doing it. It's either happening or it's not, and I continue. So many people are like, oh my God, I have to do this, I have to meditate, or I didn't do it. And then they start punishing themselves for not doing it, right? I'm like, forget about it. So you didn't do it. There's always tomorrow. Don't worry about it. Because self-love comes very high on one of my values. So even if I don't sit and meditate, it's all about, it's all right, Nora, you did all right. Maybe you tried. Maybe it was only for 2 minutes. We'll try again tomorrow.
Well, it's kind of like when somebody's, really forcing themselves and they got to wake up at a certain time because they got an important meeting or something, or they're only going to get 7.5 hours of sleep. And they're like, I got to go to sleep right now. And they keep thinking about it. And the more they think about it like that, the worse it gets.
Yeah, so. It's punishment, self-punishment. It's terrible. I think we are, as humans, it's like our guilt factor and our shoulds, right? I always call them our shoulds. We should be doing this and we should be doing this is very high.
All over ourselves.
is
oh,
very
Brian.
It's like, It's very high. So that's basically my morning routine, and then I'll do exercise. So I'll wake up, set my intention, drink my little drink, sit with myself, journal maybe, and then I'll do my exercise. And that may be yoga, that may be going to Pilates class, that may be going for a walk, whatever it is. I'd like to just move my body just to prepare for the rest of the day. So I don't know if you see the trend here, but I'm preparing different parts of myself, from my mind to my inner digestion to my physical body for the rest of the day in my morning routine.
Yeah,
it's almost like you're setting yourself up for success.
I'm setting myself up to feel awesome.
Which, I mean, who can argue with the benefits of that, really?
I don't think anyone, and if there is anyone, maybe that straitjacket meditation is right for you. So, do you have any other kind of, I hate to use the buzzword hacks for staying healthy, other than just kind of what you described in your morning routine? Is there anything that kind of comes to mind?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, there's one that I love sharing with people, because not that it shocks people, but I see the ashamed face coming on. And that's, do you put your phone away from you at night, or do you turn your phone off, or do you just let all those notifications, pop up as you sleep? So I always ask people, and the people that I work with, the female entrepreneurs, I say, your sleep is your sacred space. It's your sacred space to reset and to recharge, so that you can have another brilliant, successful day the next day. So I always advise people to turn their cell phones onto airplane mode. And let me tell you right here, right now, I don't know, I'm not on Android, I'm on an iPhone, that if you turn your phone onto airplane mode, your alarm will still work. That's the number one question I always get asked when I tell them this life hack. Yes, your alarm will still work, so don't worry, you won't miss whatever you have the next day. So just when you go to bed at night, turn your phone onto, first of all, silent, and then second of all, onto the airplane mode. This means that you can still use your alarm, you can still wake up in the morning and check the time, but when you do wake up, you don't get this full barrage of all the notifications from other people wanting you and your energy, right? Which means, and this is why then I set myself this morning routine, because then I'm not disturbed. I don't check my Facebook or turn my phone off of airplane mode until I finish my morning routine, which is sometimes 2 or 3 hours long, depending on how I feel of the day.
Wow.
So it just allows me to be in my own space, and my sacred space, I call it, without being disturbed from the outside. So, I can ask you, Brian or Claude, do you turn your phone onto airplane mode?
I do, and I can't remember where I heard it. I think I read somewhere recently, like, just keep your damn phone out of the bedroom and spend $10 on a friggin' alarm clock. There's no reason we need to have our phones right next to our heads, whether it's on airplane mode or not. And I absolutely do, and I'm not taking my own advice. And now that this is going out publicly, maybe I will.
We'll hold you accountable. We're all holding you accountable now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, one thing I do that I find saves my sanity is I always have my phone on silent, pretty much no matter what. So I'm not kind of at the disposal of these instant messages and stuff. So
That's
like whenever
why
I get
answer my calls.
Yeah, exactly. Well, maybe.
Maybe you just don't want to talk to me.
Well, maybe. I don't know. I'm not at liberty to discuss that matter.
Fair enough.
So yeah, no, I just I find it so much better instead of having 300 beeping sounds a day, and you feel like some sort of caged monkey with somebody rattling your cage every like 2 minutes. You just get to your phone, you check it when you check it, and that's it. I mean, the airplane mode thing is great, but for me, since mine's on silent anyway, and I just flip it over when it's bedtime, I'm good to go. But definitely, if somebody wants to reduce their addiction, that airplane mode is huge, because people are really stuck to their phones nowadays.
So, but when you wake up in the morning, you look at your phone immediately, and then you scroll through all your notifications.
Not all of them, no. I look, I see if there's anything urgent, and then I just go pretty much about my day. and then I check
right.
them as the day goes on. Because I mean, I used to do that, and I used to just sit there for 20 minutes, just
Yeah.
scrolling and reading, and like, so now I just check kind of the news, see if the world is still in one piece, and there's World War with who knows, China or Iran or whatever's happening now. But yeah, so that's one way I stay sane, is just keeping it silent, so I'm not at the beck and call of this monstrosity that we didn't even have 10 years ago.
I call them the others, right? The others
The
always want
others.
something from you. The others, they're pinging you,
Sounds like
and they're
Wasn't that a horror movie?
I think that was Nicole Kidman or something.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I will just say, calling you out, Claude, EMF radiation with the phone not on airplane mode. So
That's true, but I keep it at a pretty good distance away from me. I mean, some people sleep with it by their heads. I keep it at the table at the far end of the room. So
fair enough.
I mean, this probably still has stuff radiating me, but eh.
Do you switch your Wi-Fi off at night in your house?
No. I've heard that's probably a wise thing to do, not only to save energy, but there's all sorts of different radiation stuff coming at you. So
100%. I tend to switch my Wi-Fi. If I'm the last person to go to bed in the household, I'll switch it off, and the first person to wake up can switch it back on because of the EMF radiation. So my mother lives in Hong Kong, and she lives on the 31st floor. So, Hong Kong is high-rise city, a bit like New York City.
Mm-hmm.
And when I went there to visit recently, it was about in October. So I'm sitting at my desk, and I'm like, okay, let's connect to the Wi-Fi. And then I opened the Wi-Fi on my laptop, and I counted like 60 different Wi-Fi signals.
Oh,
because
yeah.
it's there's 8 flats per floor, there's 35 floors, and I was like, oh my God, I must be getting fried in this building.
Now, maybe or can remember what the heck they're called, but I have these little hockey puck looking things that are supposed to reduce EMF. I can't remember what the heck they're called.
Well, there's a few different things. There's orgone generators or orgons.
Yeah, organite. Organite.
Yeah, organite. Yeah, exactly. So that's what you can also get. And there's an actual stone from, I think it's Russia, I'm not quite sure, called shungite. It's called shungite. And I've actually got one stuck to the back of my iPhone, a little disc of shungite. And it also is a fantastic stone for absorbing EMF and protecting from negative frequencies.
Okay.
Never heard of it. But,
no, I haven't either. So
gonna have to.
Thank you for that, and we'll definitely check that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, how did you get into all the health and EMF stuff? I mean, a lot of folks have their own kind of path, but like, what made you kind of open to all this stuff?
That's a really good question. I've never actually considered it. I think it's just how through my parents, I guess. My parents are, moving. They moved to Asia when they were, I think, 19 years old. So they were pretty open and adventurous, I would say. So they're Swiss and German by descent. And they moved at 19 to Taiwan and then moved on to Nepal. So I think just by having parents who were like wild and adventurous and open, and my mother was doing yoga in the 70s already in Nepal with her guru, Nepalese guru, right? And so it's just like kind of infiltrated through my parents. And just I think as I've grown older, I've just realized, I used to smoke cigarettes. I used to eat McDonald's every single day, and then
Yep. I think all three
of us, yeah.
And then one day you're like, actually, I don't feel good. Like it didn't make me feel awesome. It didn't make me want to like get up and jump around and have energy when I was doing these kind of things. So then I realized, okay, well, what does? And you just start to question the things that you surround yourself with, or that you decide to put into your body, and yeah, so just a natural progression, I guess.
That's great to have a good influence from parents. I mean, it's a lot any of us can just hope for, but definitely doing it yoga in the 70s, that's kind of like a hipster move, doing it before it was cool.
Totally.
Wow.
Now, do you I guess you do yoga yourself, or?
Yes, so actually so my mother started it, and my father is now a yoga philosophy and a meditation. So there's the word, the scary word. He's a meditation and pranayama teacher. So pranayama is the science of breathing. How does one breathe properly and use the breath to create more open energies in the body, I would say. So that's now what my father does. He's a full-time yoga teacher in that sense. So it's kind of in the family.
That is awesome. I mean, you're connected with the right people then.
Totally.
Yeah.
I'm in with the crowd.
You're in the loop.
I feel like we could get off on a philosophy tangent here, but there's, in my opinion, my opinionated opinion, we are definitely the sum of our experiences, so that kind of falls onto our parents and our environment as children, and then at some point we get to kind of start to choose what we're interested in, and then we get to kind of decide what path we're on. So my opinion is that it is both a combination of our environment and our upbringing, and then also us choosing to, hey, do I want to eat McDonald's, or do I want to start learning about healthy alternative lifestyle?
I 100% agree with you, because we have no choice but to be influenced by our parents, specifically in our younger years, right? We don't fend for ourselves. We rely on our parents for everything. So they are going to influence us no matter if we don't want to. We have no choice because we're under their kind of, I call it their protection, right? They're taking care of us. They're providing us with, the means to grow. And then, also I always think of it, the teenage rebellion years. That's when you kind of start to explore your own values and see, okay, do I like this, or do I like the party, or do I like, maybe drinking, or do I like, studying, and then, as you grow older, then you're like, okay, well, I didn't like that, I didn't like this, but I like this. So I 100% agree with what you just said.
I'm glad somebody does.
So I've got a question about Bali. Sorry to interrupt, Brian, but what 6 months? That's quite a long time. So can you describe motivations behind that?
Of spending time in Bali, yeah. So
I mean, obviously, it's a nice
Who wouldn't
place,
want to spend time in Bali?
All right. So my number one reason to go back to Bali, and because I've been there, I should say, my father actually lives in Bali as well, so I have family there. And apart from that, Bali, the energy of the island is very interesting. So without getting too spiritual here, I would just say people come to Bali and they either love it or they hate it. All right, It's quite black and white. It's a very spiritual island in the sense that the culture, the Balinese culture, is a mixture of Hinduism, but it's a kind of branched out and morphed into its own type of Hinduism, which is coming from India. So it's like they worship the spirits of the island a lot. So in that sense, it's a spiritual culture, and there's every morning and every evening the Balinese make offerings to the spirits of the land, to the spirits of the river. So in the sense, so I don't want to scare people away that, oh no, I'm not interested into Hinduism and everything. No, it's not about that. It's about just they have gratitude. They have gratitude for the abundance that's around them, and they show that by offering incense and fruit and flowers. So growing up in Asia, I'm very drawn to cultures which have a lot of gratitude in them. And I find that in the West, we tend to take a lot of things for granted. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Whereas in Asia, I think people have much more gratitude for the simplicity, for the simplistic things in life. So what drew me back to Bali was, one, the culture there. The people, the Balinese culture is also very friendly and open. And because it's spiritual and because the Balinese are friendly and open, it tends to draw people internationally who are looking for that something different in their lives, who want perhaps a little bit of adventure, or who don't want to work the 9 to 5, or who are entrepreneurs or digital nomads already and don't need to be living in big cities, or they can live somewhere a bit more, let's just call it exotic for now. So when I'm in Bali, I feel nourished. Bali nourishes me, and that's why I like to go there. But in saying that, I have a few friends who came once to Bali and they were just like, nah, didn't get along with it, just couldn't sleep at night. They just felt agitated the whole time. It's quite populated. Bali, Indonesia is a very populated country. It's not like, miles and miles of nobody around. No, you see like there's people around everywhere. So they couldn't handle that. So I think it's worth a visit. Why don't you come visit? Come visit me there. I'll be back there in 2 months. And see for yourself how it sits with you. So I like it because people are grateful there. I feel happy there. The surrounding culture has gratitude, and it's one of my values is to have gratitude. So I kind of feel like I fit in.
Totally. And I mean, definitely they seem they're really on that appreciation pathway if they're giving tributes to nature and the gods, so to speak. But no, I find the more I appreciate things, the happier I get. So I think that's the right way.
Totally. Just give it a try. Like one of the things that I do in my morning routine, so I didn't actually get into the specifics of what I journal about, but one of the things I do every day is I write 3 things I'm grateful for. It's such a simple practice that you can do, and it doesn't have to be like, oh my God, I'm so grateful for this massive house that I live in, but it can be as simple as like, oh my God, just I'm so grateful to be able to sit here and write, or I'm so grateful that my big toe is actually working, because if you've ever injured one of your toes, that you're like hobbling around, right? It's like you can be so grateful for the minute things and just appreciate like the abundance that we all already have, and your life will be so much happier.
I seem to remember hearing this once before on this podcast.
I'm sure you have.
And you know what? Yeah, that brings me to that point where I don't remember who said it, but they're like, there's a million things that go right every day, and we focus on the one thing that goes wrong or that doesn't go our way.
Yes, totally. I mean, it's like, why do we do that? Why are we conditioned to do that? Why can't we focus on the million things that go right, and we'd all just be so much happier?
Right.
That's a great question.
And that's, I believe that's our conditioning. Everyone's like, oh, how was your day today? Oh, things are going rough, and everybody's, can relate to that. And so if you say, oh yeah, things are great, people are like, oh, you're weird.
Yeah, or they call you an asshole.
Right.
They're like, how dare you be okay?
But,
so we gotta take the power back.
Absolutely. Yeah.
This is why when I say, it's I'm feeling awesome, right? It's like people go, oh, all right. Then they kind of don't know how to reply to that. They're like, oh, because if you go, oh, not so good, then people go, oh, but what's wrong, right? It's like the automatic replies, like, oh, but what's wrong? And then you can tell them about your miseries and da-da-da-da-da, right? But if you're like, no, it's absolutely awesome, people are like, what do I ask her? I don't know. Like, what's the next thing I should say,
Yeah, they're like, uh-oh, we got a weird one over here.
Right. I mean, just like our conversations today, I was taken aback. I needed to know more.
Yeah. So. It's all about that quest for knowledge and for betterment. So, hey, there's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely.
So,
but changing gears here, I just kind of wanted to ask you a little bit. I know you're obviously a multiple online business owner. I was kind of curious, what are 3 of your most hard-learned lessons about owning online businesses, and how did you overcome those?
3 lessons. All right.
I mean, 1, 5, your choice. Just a rough estimate.
All right. So the first online business I started was a physical product. It was jewelry, and I started a company in India selling yoga jewelry. And this is without having any business knowledge or any knowledge of anything online. So the hardest lesson I had to learn was basically, how do you market a product and sell it online? And I always tell people that I mentor is like, it's so worth it to get yourself a business coach or a mentor or somebody who's done it before, who can show you the tricks of the trade. Because if I would have had that, it took me 5 years to get this business really going off the ground. But if I would have had someone to kind of be like, hey, Nora, why don't you just do this? It's really easy. Or this is what everybody else is doing. It would have been like done and up and running and successful probably in under a year. So always, I think people struggle when they first started, and this is what I struggled with, is like feeling you had to do everything on your own. Like, I made the product, I photographed the product, I put it online, I marketed it, I did my own Facebook, I did everything by myself. But I would have loved to have someone to kind of teach me the way that other people do it, or the ropes, or how the rope, I think that's always the number one thing I said, is that I wish I just had somebody to help me.
Yeah, and a lot of people get caught up in this. I know I've gotten caught up in it myself. You become your own social media manager, you become your own, like, everything, and it can be so overwhelming.
And draining too, if
Yes.
you don't enjoy that aspect of it.
Yeah, even if you do enjoy it, spending hours on end, it can wear you down a little bit.
Mm-hmm. So do you work with a mentor or coach, Nora?
Yeah, I've been working for the last year with a business coach, and the marketing strategy mainly is where I really wanted some help in, and that's kind of what I sought after and who I wanted to work with. And for the next probably month, I'll be working with this person, and then I'm looking for someone new. So I'm open to suggestions. If you've got any fabulous mentors, people in the online sphere, to work with, really. And this is, I think, this is going to be a lifelong thing. I think now that I've had a mentor, like, I always want to have a mentor. And whatever stage of business that I'm going to be in, I always want a mentor that's a little bit more ahead of me that can help me out. And I think people maybe think that, I'll have a mentor once and that's it. No, like, I consider my mentors like somebody I look up to, somebody that can really help me move forward and open my horizons to things that I actually have no idea about or hadn't even thought about. So it's going to be a lifelong, the mentors might change, but the idea of having support in that way is going to be a lifelong thing for me, at least.
I think that's a really wise way to live. I know I work with a couple of coaches myself. Claude, do you?
You know what? I don't, but I probably should. I think it would be helpful, but I'm sort of one of these stubborn people.
No.
So, oh man. But no, it would be helpful. I just don't know where to start first. What sort of coach I should get.
Perfect.
We'll see. We'll see. Maybe one of these days I'll get an all-around coach, or I'll just get 20 of them, and we'll see.
We'll talk off the air.
Yeah. Sounds like a plan.
Absolutely. So, Nora, I know we're on a little bit of a time crunch here. One of our jump right into our wrap-up questions. So, what is your definition, or who is the person that comes to mind when you hear the phrase "the optimum human"?
So when I hear that phrase, immediately I think of a person who has compassion. So for me, compassion, specifically in the world that we're facing today, is somebody who can look at any situation and literally just soften the muscles around their heart and be able to emphasize and sympathize. I can't even say that word. Say it for me.
Sympathize?
I empathize with not being able to say it.
with the people around them, and it's not only people, with the animals, even the plants around them. And I think this is one thing personally, in my opinionated opinion, is what we most I would say, lack. Some of us lack compassion nowadays. We tend to be hard. The world teaches us to be hard and to be closed off. And I'd love to be able, the optimum human to me would be somebody who has compassion for all things.
Right on.
Awesome.
Now let's get into books and some resources. So we gave you a little bit of a heads up. So what book or books would you save from a fire or recommend to others?
So the one I'm currently reading and practicing, because it's a book that's gives you like practical things you can try out in your life, and I love it. Like I'm a person who loves trying things myself to see whether or not it works. So the one I'm currently reading is by Pam Grout, and it's called E Squared.
Oh man.
Yeah, I finally, after the third person recommended that, I finally got through it. So, Claude, you're
There
next
you
to
go.
read it.
It's on my Kindle. It's just
It's like, it's like, how to manifest, how to train the brain muscles in your brain and your mind to manifest the things you want in your life, right? And it's so fascinating because the story for me is like, I wanted to manifest a green feather, and I was in Australia, and I was like, come on, green feather, and I was visualizing it, and I was like, it's going to be a parrot feather, and it's going to be this big, and it's going to have a red tip, and I was like waiting, and I couldn't wait, and I was waiting, and then like it didn't appear, and I got so disappointed. I was like, I suck at this, I can't do this, what does it mean, what does this mean, universe, right? And then guess what? 1 week later, when I stopped trying so hard, what was on the ground? A green parrot feather. It wasn't as big as I had visualized it, but it was there. I was like, score! Look at this! I found my feather! Woo! And I got so happy.
So why were you searching for a green feather?
I don't know, because in the book, it's just like, now you got to manifest.
It was one of the exercises in the book.
Yeah.
It's just this. Okay, that's kind of weird, but all right. What if you spray paint it? What if you make it your own? Does that work?
No, not really. I think you got to read the book.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right. I don't know what has a green feather in Canada, especially around this time, but
a peacock.
Go
to the zoo.
I'll just go visit my local park. I think we've got like 3 peacocks in Toronto, so it's going to be fun. Can I pluck it right off the bird? Is that specified?
Well, you can do what you want. I'm not sure the peacock would like that, but
No. I think you need to find your own thing to manifest. I think you should lay off the green feather. But,
No, I kind of like this idea
okay,
now.
fair
I'm going to
enough.
go visit some peacocks. I might be on the news tomorrow, but hey, well, whatever. Worth it.
Got arrested at the local zoo.
Yeah, for plucking peacock feathers. Anyway.
All right, yeah,
before
let's
this
see if
goes
we
in a
can
total tailspin here.
wrap this thing up. Nora, so next question would be, who would you want to hear on this podcast, and what would you want to hear them talk about?
Who do I want to hear about the optimum human? Okay, if you give me a second to think now. I'm going to just say the first person who popped into my head, and it's a good friend of mine called Rachel Zinman, and she's a yoga mentor of mine, and she is basically going to publish a book on yoga and diabetes, and I think that would be a very interesting topic for you on the optimum human. Because when you think of optimum human, you always think of somebody who's like really healthy and like energetic and just ready to go. So I think it'd be interesting to see somebody who perhaps has a condition. How do you overcome that and become the optimum human?
Yeah, I like that. I will have to get you to put us in touch with her.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I will.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I'm grateful.
Is that one of your 3 things today that you're grateful for?
Absolutely. And warm slippers is another one. It is cold out.
Yeah. Okay.
See, I've got my my 5-minute journal that tells me what to be grateful for. So I'm already on that pathway. I'm lazy.
Does it tell you what to be grateful for?
Well,
like
it tells me what I like. It tells me to write down what I'm grateful for. So in essence, it kind of starts the process for me.
Okay.
So, and then it's got little cool things like quotes, and it says today's quote is actually, to avoid criticism, say nothing, do nothing, be nothing. So that's it's got some pretty deep stuff. I think this was a great purchase on my part. I don't remember who suggested it, but 5-minute journal is it's out of this world.
Absolutely.
I'll have to check it out. All
Yeah.
right, you can hold me accountable. I'll check that out, and I'm going to hold you accountable to read the Pam Grout book.
Yes,
Absolutely.
yes. I will have to do this and then pluck turkeys or whatever. I think I've lost my way a little bit. That's
I
okay.
think so. All right. And on that note, Nora, thank you so much for coming on today. It's been awesome. It's been informative. I know I learned a lot, and I'm hoping that our listeners learned a lot. And
Yeah, and just before we say goodbye, where can we find more from you, about you? Like,
Sure.
where
I
do
think
I
probably-
stalk you, pretty much?
Where do I stalk me? Come and stalk me. My website, norawendel.com. At the moment, it's more focused on design, the design work I do. However, it's soon going to be changing. Or else just come on Facebook. My Facebook page is Stop Trying and Start Living.
Okay.
If you
I
Google
like it.
Nora Wendel and then Stop Trying, Start Living, that will be me on Facebook.
Perfect.
Hey, that's a good motto, and I think
Yes.
that's a great place to.
Do or do not. There is no try.
Okay, there, Yoda. Relax. Well, thank you very much for coming on our show. I had a blast. I mean, it looks like we could talk for several hours about, like, I mean, I just want to like pick your brain for like 2 hours about travel tips and places to go and what to do. So we might have to do a round 2 and
Set
3.
that up. Absolutely.
Yeah, the travel podcast.
The travel podcast, sure. Well, thank you so much, both of you, for having me on and listening to my, thoughts and ideas and opinions on life in general. It's been fun. It's been awesome.
Absolutely.
It has
been
started
awesome,
awesome.
and we appreciate you dealing with us.
With our turkey plucking selves.
And on that note, Nora, thank you so much.
All right. Bye, guys. Bye.
All right. Have a good one.